I was gonna rip his heart out. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from their claw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Oh, I'm a man of my word, aren't I? If I tell you I'm gonna beat you, then I'm gonna beat you. You've had it easy this year, sir. Your 6-1-1 record, it doesn't speak to how mediocre your team actually is. You've only had 2 true victories so far this year. Week 1, defeating Paul 117-69. Week 3, defeating the Commish 128-81. But besides that, all your victories come with very small margins. And the only reason why this is worth mentioning is because, as I said weeks ago, you have this narrative of domination. Of course, you can win 2 chips in a row and say, yes, I'm the champion. But Andy speaks with this, how do I put it? Andy speaks with this tone of, like, he's infallible. Like, his team is in a certain area and we're all gonna pay for the minor insults that we hurl at him. You'll pay for that, he says. You say you're going to defeat. Look, even the way Andy reacted to my guarantee. I do this amazing job at setting Andy up, like doing a great promo for our game this weekend, talking shit. And the only thing that Andy can come back and say is, I'm amused by this, like he's some sort of a king on a throne. Of course, it's all just to mask the fact that Andy has absolutely no charisma whatsoever. He has nothing to say. He has nothing to say. The only thing that he can do is put his players in his slots. And if that's the only thing that he can do, then he should just say that that's the only thing he can do. So he tries to pretend and act like he's Shang Tsung, somewhere on a throne, waiting for the rest of us to finish out our petty little differences, and then he takes one of us out in the final battle. So he has this thought of himself and of his team like he's the bee's knees. And I'm here to tell you, sir, you are not the bee's knees. You've had such an easy go of it so far this season. Week 2 versus Jay, 97-89, a margin of 8. Against Joe, week 4, 73-67, a margin of 6. Hensel, week 5, 89-79, a margin of 10. Of course, there was the tie with Eric in week 6, 100-100. Now, I also want to say and take credit for that tie, because had it not been for me advocating for kickers in 2022, Eric's kick wouldn't have been 6 points. It would have just been 5. So Eric would have lost 99-100. Week 7 versus Pedro, you won 98-56. Andy, you have had the easiest ride, giving up 642 points to opponents this year. Second is Pedro, poor little Pedro, at the bottom of the point total, scoring the least amount of points, and he has the second most points, the second least points scored against him. And I say that's poor little Pedro because that just makes you look horrible. It's not poor Pedro if so many people score points against him and he scores the least. It's just that makes you look that much more terrible if you're not scoring points and people aren't scoring points against you and you're sub 500. I mean, that's just truth. Third is Hensel at 703. Then there's a bunch of us in the middle giving up a lot of points, and then Paul all the way at the top giving up 811 points. Oh, Paul, we feel so terrible for you. But predicting this victory against you was not the highlight of my season and will not be the highlight of my season. Of course, we all know what the highlight of my season was. It was sticking my dick in Ed's ass earlier this year. Oh, this is your... Oh, let's do it. Another, and another, and another, and another. Whoa. Just listen to those explosions, Andy. I'm erupting all over you. Because that's what I did this week, nigga. You got 5 points from Patrick Mahomes. Oh, what, he had a flu or something like that? 3 points from Aaron Jones. That bum Javonte Williams got in for his very first touchdown of the year. Can you imagine that? Guys played every game with exception to one game. He missed week 5 against the Jets. And this is his very first touchdown. This is the reason why we say you have no running game. Andy, you're still waiting on Kyron Williams to show up, and apparently he's not going to show up till week 12. Where are those points going to come from when you don't get explosive performances from your players, Andy? 17 points from Tyreek Hill. Right? That's not explosive. I think that's just Tyreek having a regular week. And Puka Nacua with just 4 points, 14 from TJ Hawkinson. And you thought for one second that Keenan Allen was going to keep you afloat for the Sunday night game. Is that what you thought, Andy? Oh my, it felt so good when Austin Eckler got that touchdown. I can't even explain it to you, Andy. It was kind of like the first time I went out on a date with your mother. Of course, we didn't have a date. I told her to come over because I would never be seen with your mother in public. No! Give me an explosion for that one. Josh Allen with 28 points. He set the tone Thursday night. And I know you were thinking, I have Patrick Mahomes, so, I'll do something comparable to that or maybe more. But Patrick Mahomes has not been the Patrick Mahomes, at least not the fantasy version of who he is supposed to be. Of course, as I said, only getting 5 points. And, previous to that, I mean, he gets a lot of teen performances in the low 20s. So, it remains to be seen whether he's going to be what he's supposed to be. Let's see when you select. Did you select Patrick Mahomes before I selected Josh Allen? I believe you did, right, in the second round. So always think about that, Andy. You had an opportunity to pick Josh Allen. I'm so thankful that you didn't. But you had an opportunity to pick him and you didn't. Okay? Austin Eckler with 15 points, 16 for Joe Mixon. Can I get another bum for that? Zay Flowers with just 1 point. Fine, whatever. Jamar Chase with 16. Andy, this was a epic performance by the Toronto Bundy. And of course, I am the only person in this league that can call their shot. And it happened. No one else would do this. No one else would attempt to do this because everybody just tucks their penis into their sack. Like a turtle's head in a shell. They just, curl up and just hope to get a victory. But I stick my neck out there and I say that I defeat you. And now you're 6-1-1. This is the direction where you've got to go. We've got about 6 regular season weeks left. And I'm hoping that you can get at least 4 losses within the next 6 weeks. And it's very possible. It's very possible because Aaron Jones had that performance against the Chicago Bears. We all know what that was. Then he got hurt and he got 1 point. Then he came back 2 weeks ago with 5. And this week he got 3. It doesn't look like that Packers offense is ever going to get off the ground. It doesn't look like it's ever going to happen. Jordan Love isn't that guy. or it's the coaching. I don't know. I'm not the X's and O's guy. All I know is that Aaron Jones is looking pretty sus. And Javonte Williams, of course, getting his very first touchdown this week. Like, where do you think this is going? Let's be honest here. Where do you think this is going? One 3-chip winner to another 3-chip winner? Because during the week, you said, I'm going to stop calling him what would you call me? The analyst or the consultant? Whatever. You'll stop calling me that when I win 4 championships. How can you, sir? How can you tell me that I've got to do something when you haven't done it? You look at this championship thing a lot more differently than I do, right? Because you think that since you just got to 3, that this somehow means that you've diminished my accomplishments or something. I've been here for the past 5 years, sir. You just got here. It's taken you about 15 years to win your first championship. It didn't take me that long. And as I told you in the chat, since 2012, I've either been tied or ahead in this league. So you didn't change anything with your 3rd chip win. You look at this differently. You think that since you just got here, now it's like, now the pressure's on you to fucking... No, it's not. Look behind you. Look at the rest of these 8 assholes. One of them has 0, a few of them have 1, and a bunch of them have 2. Like, who do you think you're looking at here? You think just because you got to 3, now it's a thing, and I did it 5 years earlier than you, it's not a thing? Like I'm aging here with 3? It doesn't work that way, sir. Why don't you get to 4 first, and you tell me to do shit? It makes more sense for you to look backwards and tell one of them get to 3. You can only put that on someone who hasn't accomplished what you have accomplished. If you haven't accomplished yet, then it's not a thing. It doesn't exist. And now you lose. And I know you thought you were going to win this one, Andy. I know you thought you were going to win. It's not one of those things where you just walk away and you go, I lose. 77 points, Andy, and this isn't too far from what you normally do. As I said, the games that you won, you scored 97, you scored 73, 89. This is what you do, Andy. This is who your team is. It may not be Patrick Mahomes with 5 points, but it just might as well be Aaron Jones with 3 points, Puka Nacua. I don't know. How many games do you think, especially without Matthew Stafford, if he's injured for a long period of time? How long do you think Puka Nacua is going to get 10, 15, 20-point performances with Cooper Kupp being healthy? How long do you think this is going to last, Andy? Big Papa Poop loses to the... let's see the name here. The Floridian Crippler. That's a strange name. Losing to the Floridian Crippler 98-96. Sorry. Ed getting a Monday Night Miracle with Jahmyr Gibbs scoring 24 points. And of course, Ed shows you... I'm vicious this fucking week. Ed shows you everything you need to know about Ed always. I am telling you, if you ever get into a war of words with Ed, just understand that the more Ed talks, the more he reveals himself. You let a nigga talk, and he'll just tell on himself. Because Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't know, when he got that 30-yard touchdown, Ed comes in, he talks his shit, as we all should, that's fine. But then he comes and he says, and you all laughed at me. No, he said, I remember you all laughed at me and said I didn't have a running back. Ed, to be fair, we laughed at every single aspect of your team. We laughed at you hoarding several quarterbacks just a few weeks ago. We laughed at your injury to Aaron Rodgers, which made Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson just middle of the road now. We laughed at the fact that at one point you had Zerloin in there and you had 5 slotted players for the Jets organization. And most of all, we laughed at the fact that you drafted Justin Tucker with the 3rd selection. So we laughed at many different areas of your team. And Jahmyr Gibbs is here by way of David Montgomery's injury. Let's not forget that. And the Detroit Lions are on a bye next week. And of course, we will discuss the possibilities of Ed beating Andy without Jahmyr Gibbs. I wonder if Ed knew that Jahmyr Gibbs was on a bye this week. But when they come back, just know that he's going to be sharing those carries with David Montgomery. Now, of course, you could make a case and say that now he's showing himself out to be a viable RB1, but the system is the system. And David Montgomery played a hell of a lot better than Jahmyr Gibbs most of the year. I mean, every single time he was in there, he was making these sort of numbers. So don't think for 1 second that Jahmyr Gibbs is just going to continue to do this, okay? Breece Hall scoring 14 points. This is the thing. Every dog has his day. A broken clock is right at least 2 times a day. Whenever I make fun of anyone's positions, as I've made fun of Andy's running game, look at this bum-ass nigga Javonte Williams. He got a touchdown. These are all highly gifted athletes. Of course they're going to score touchdowns. Of course. You're the only one, Ed, that thinks the contrary. This is why I'm glad that I have Chase and he's never gonna fucking leave my team. Every fucking gritty, every fucking backflip, I hope you watch, Ed, because you traded him to me thinking that he was done, right? And you got Mike Evans thinking that Mike Evans was gonna get, how many points did he get when I trade? Ooh, I sold high on Mike Evans, didn't I? 171 yards on 6 catches, 23 points. Ed thought that Mike Evans was going to be like the second coming of, I don't know what, of Randy Moss in 2023 with that quarterback. Whatever the fuck his name is, I don't care. Johnny Manziel 2.0. You thought that Chase wasn't going to do anything. Now, every time that Chase gets a touchdown, now every time that he gets 16, 20 points, it hurts you because that's how you think. You think that players are just going to not produce. I don't think that Breece Hall isn't going to, like, he's just not going to do anything. Of course he's going to do something, but it's about consistency. How often is he going to do this? How often is Breece Hall going to score 14 and Garrett Wilson get 10? How often are they going to face the Giants? When you have 2 players from one team, it better be a really good team. I've got Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. And now that Bengals offense is looking amazing, okay? When you have 2 players from one particular team, that better be a team that on a bad week is still operating on average. You know, Jay had the Chargers last season, and the Chargers were the Chargers. So at the very least, they're going to do something. They would put up these numbers on a bad week, a 14 and a 10. But, you know, don't think that guys aren't going to score. Who the fuck is sitting there? You mean to tell me that every time that one of your players gets a touchdown, you look around like, I told you. Who gives a shit, Ed? Who gives a shit? Jesus fucking Christ. Like, they're football players. Of course they're going to do something. How about CJ Stroud? Is he working out well for you, Ed? 12 points for CJ Stroud. See, I don't even care that Ed won. Because Ed attempting to change his name and try to troll me, This is what Ed gets. This is what Ed deserves now. You can't call yourself a fellow Canadian. Let's say that. You'll never hear me say that name. I will never say that name, all right? I'm not ChatGPT. I'm not AI. You don't punch in some demands and I say what you want me to say. I say what I want to say, Edwin. Yeah, I'll call you Edwin. You can't call yourself a Canadian unless you come here and take this weather. Take snow in April and put some fucking hair on your chest. How about that? Don't call yourself a Canadian, all right? Don't try to appropriate this geographical appropriation. That's what this is. You fucking Floridian. Fuck you. I don't give a shit if you won. On the other side, you've got Dak Prescott with 27 points. Now, Jay just picked up Dak. I was very surprised that he picked up Dak because Dak is Dak. Of course, he's not throwing as many interceptions as he normally does. He threw 3 interceptions against the San Francisco 49ers. He threw 1 this week, but 27 points. He really lucked out there. 22 points from Alvin Kamara, 9 from Jonathan Taylor. Calvin Ridley with 8 points. That was a surprise. Amon St. Brown got 10 points just like last week. And as he mentioned, 3 points by Kyle Pitts, who was on the bench. This would have been the difference that would have gotten him the victory, because he got 0 from Dalton Schultz. So 98-96. Credit to Ed for getting that victory, Ed. All that aside, see, there's nuance when I talk. I'll talk shit about your team, but I will give you credit for getting the victory. Of course, you are now 3-5. You're not gonna do shit, but you're 3-5, just like me. Good for you. Ricky O loses to Jokes on You 99-80. Now, I predicted that. Well, I didn't really predict. This wasn't really a prediction. I didn't really pick a side. I said it was 50-50 whether, it was going to be Orlando or Pedro. It wouldn't surprise me if Pedro beat Orlando, because Orlando's team just doesn't show up sometimes. Lamar Jackson, 11 points, 12 points for Saquon Barkley. There's something about having so much stock in a mediocre team. The Jets aren't mediocre. Ed has 2 Jets. They're just not offensively powered, but obviously they have a great defense. The Giants are mediocre, and the commish has decided to just... Darren Waller, he's injured. I don't know when he's going to be back. And Saquon I never looked at it that way, but just he's starting them every week, and it's like you're starting 2 Giants every week. Of course, you've got to start Saquon Barkley, but Darren Waller, you just got to look elsewhere, and now you really have to look elsewhere. 6 points from James Cook, just 7 points from Stephon Diggs. Of course, these were the Thursday night games. I knew it didn't get off to a good start for the commish, but sometimes you can pick it up later on in the Sunday. 14 points from Jordan Addison, and that's it. Nothing else to speak of here except 13 points from his brand new kicker. Congratulations to you. I didn't have the same luck with my kicker, and I think I'm gonna get him the fuck out of here. By the way, I didn't like how that Tennessee offense, just every catch that what the fuck is his name, that D-Hop made, and he just drags it into the end zone, and I'm like, no, just get on the ground, maybe I can get a field goal. And no, just a touchdown every single time. So all I got was extra points. I hated it. And of course, 14 points from the defense on the bench. That wouldn't have been enough to get Orlando the victory anyway, because he got 6 points from the Dolphins defense. And on the other side, 27 points for Joe Burrow. Look, listen, if the Bengals are back like everybody thinks they are, then I would give Pedro a better chance to pull something off here, as he has a 3-5 record as well. 27 points from Joe. Josh Jacobs with 14 points, just 1 point for Davante Adams. Davante Adams was pissed the fuck off, throwing his helmet. I think apparently the Raiders told him that he wasn't going to be traded even later today. 4 p.m. is, of course, drop my papers. 4 p.m. is, of course, the deadline for the trade. That's another thing to consider here. I'll discuss the trade between Paul and Jay after I get done with these games, but that's another thing to consider here. Be patient. Maybe 1 or 2 guys, I'm not assuming there will be very many, but maybe 1 or 2 guys get shifted around, and maybe their situation becomes a little better. So hold on to the players that you have, at least for today, because you never know what might happen. Jalen Waddle with 18 points, 7 from... all right, nothing else here. Pedro picks up the victory, the commish, with a record of 4-4. I don't even remember. How the fuck does the commish have 4 wins? He just feels like a 2 or 3 win team to me. He's just been fumbling the entire season. Pork Chop Express defeats Ewok Rape 117-92. Paul getting, excuse me, I had to drink some water. Let me tell you, me being sick, it doesn't help that I go out there and run in the rain. That shit doesn't help, man. But I gotta get this fucking working. Hey, guys, by the way, who saw this Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou fight over the weekend? Francis Ngannou beat Tyson Fury without a doubt, but boxing once again proves that it's a corrupt system that's governed by the mob or just big business. I don't know what it is, but you absolutely had to assume that if it went to a decision, Francis Ngannou was not going to get the victory, and he did not get the victory, even though he beat Tyson Fury with, I think Tyson, it was 10 rounds. I think Tyson Fury might have took like 3 rounds. Other than that, Francis had the win. But this is why I don't believe in boxing. This is why I don't watch boxing. I only watch it because it was, it's bootlegged. It's pirated. I'm not going to fucking pay for that shit. Boxing is terrible. That's what I came here to say. Boxing is terrible, and fuck Andy's mother. Paul also getting 12 points from Bijan Robinson after the headache game. He comes back and gets 12 points. Raheem Mostert with 10, 25 points from A.J. Brown, who's been tearing up this league over the past. I just clicked on A.J. Brown's yardage since week 3. I'm gonna read the yardage off: 131, 175, 127, 131, 137, 130. Jesus fucking Christ. Tyreek Hill's ambitions of getting a 2,000 yard season, that might be challenged by A.J. Brown if he keeps this up. I mean, that's a pretty difficult task, but I don't know. 6 points from T. Higgins. T. Higgins is just a complete and utter failure, but he's just there just so Jamar Chase can get all the points, so I'm okay with that. 5 points from Travis Kelce. Darrell Henderson with 8 points. Darrell Henderson, who had a good performance last week, and getting 8 points. Did he get a touchdown? No, he didn't get a touchdown. This was all through the air. This was all yardage. Yeah, pretty much. And on the other side, Eric with 26 points from Jalen Hurts, 23 from CMC, and the rest of his team did nothing. Got a touchdown from his tight end. Adam Thielen did shit. 27 points from Gus Edwards on the bench. 27 fucking points, nigga. And 20 last week. Feels great. Eric's at the top of our division, and he's just been doing nothing over the past 2 weeks. I just love it. Eric, just stay right there. Just shut the fuck up. Just stay right there, Eric. I'll be there soon. Daddy's coming home. Don't worry about it. And 2 points from Cooper Kupp. I don't know, man. I don't know. Matthew Stafford getting hurt. I'd rather see Cooper Kupp get those points than Puka Nacua, because I don't like the idea of Andy picking up such a good player through waivers. I just don't like it. I'd rather someone draft the successful Rams wide receiver, not somebody just get lucky, especially if it's Andy. I'm not having it. So the last game of the week here is Joelicus Maximus obliterating Hensel. 128-244. Just let me do the math right here. Hensel losing by 84 points. 84 points. This, of course, is the lowest total since week 1. I believe Pedro's 49 points. Ouch. Hensel obviously takes the Tito Award, and Joelicus Maximus takes the Kirk Cameron Award for fantasy excellence. 14 points for Trevor Lawrence. Single-digit performances all the way down. Negative points for the Eagles defense. Is that the first negative for the Eagles? Yes, it is. It's the first negative against Washington. Who could have predicted that? But again, those divisional games. And of course, on Hensel's bench, Kendrick Bourne, who was a bright spot for the New England Patriots, is now injured for the rest of the season, so that's good news there. And David Montgomery will be back in about 2 weeks, Ed. So just know that. See, send Hensel a trade offer. Send him a trade offer, but of course Hensel isn't going to see it. Kind of like Jay said, Hensel doesn't even know what a trade is. He has no clue. Trade? What the fuck is that? Chris Olave is he's just an utter disappointment, isn't he? I mean, Chris Olave, his best performance of the season was 11 in week 1, and since then it's just been nothing. And I face Hensel this week, so this would be a fucking week with Chris Olave. Piece of shit. You better not fucking do it. Kirk Cousins on the other side with 18 points. Joe, unfortunately, losing Kirk Cousins for I don't know how long. Is it the whole season? Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Kirk Cousins is just out. I don't care to. Yes, Kirk Cousins will miss the rest of the season. That's unfortunate for Joe. Kirk Cousins is really one of the most likable people in the NFL. You know, he's goofy. He's a very likable guy, so you definitely don't want to see something like that. But Joe's got to get it together and find another quarterback. Derrick Henry with 22 points for fucking Travis Etienne. You won't have Etienne next week, Joe. You won't have Etienne next week. And 28 points from CeeDee Lamb. Here's what, well, this isn't where the victory, the victory was probably just between CeeDee Lamb and Travis Etienne, but just an awesome performance by Joe and Hensel, right where Hensel should be. You know, not necessarily 44 points, but this is where Hensel's team should be. Like, absolutely. Hensel's team should be within the pocket of these kind of games where he doesn't get much production from anybody because he has a very low-level team. And just keep it right there, Hensel. This is exactly what I predicted, and it will continue next week. So let's move on to... Okay, so before we do that, actually, I want to talk about the trade... No, actually, you know what? It makes more sense to just give you let's give you the divisions. Okay, so at 6-1-1, Highlander Trilogy getting his first loss of the season at top of the WCW division. Second, or tied for second, three-way tie, is Pork Chop Express with 4-4, Ricky O 4-4, and Big Papa Poop with 4-4. Joe at the bottom of the division at 3-5. Ewok Rape at top of the NWO division for now. It's a very tight division. I like this. This is when the season intensifies. This is when everything gets going. I like this. I love it. Ewok Rape with 4-3-1, tied with Hensel. Hensel at 4-3-1. The Toronto Bundy 3-4-1. The Floridian Crippler with 3-5, and Joke's on You with 3-5. See, Floridian Crippler, I know you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I'm 3-5, I'm 3-5. Yeah, I got 3 wins, just like he's got 3 wins, I got 3 wins. Like, so you got 27% chance of making the playoffs. And why? Because you don't score any points. If you don't score any points, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. I'm sorry. Ed right now at the moment, since he's not going to be in the top scorers, Ed with 644 points, third last. You know, then it's Pedro with 628 and Hensel with 603. So Ed, you're right there at the cusp of where a bad performance puts you at the bottom. Like, you guys can just like interchange every week. I think that's probably what's going to happen. Every week, one of you is going to be at the bottom, one of you is going to be at the top. It's just going to go over and over like a merry-go-round. So the top 5 scorers in the league are as follows. Ewok Rape with 811 points. Pork Chop Express with 797. Highlander the Trilogy with 779. Joelicus Maximus with 760. And the Toronto Bundy with 727. So I want to go over this trade very briefly here. The trade between Pork Chop Express and Big Papa Poop. And, you know, when I first saw the trade, I didn't think much of it. But upon further review, the trade just doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, Jeff Wilson Jr., of course, traded for Zach Moss, in exchange for Zach Moss. Now, Paul gets Jeff Wilson Jr., and when you look at it at face value, you say, okay, Paul's trying to stock up Miami running backs. He has Raheem Mostert, so Jeff Wilson Jr., makes his debut this week. 5 carries, 23 yards, 2 catches, 14 yards, 3 total points. So, you figure that makes sense because Miami, they're scoring a lot of points. Their running backs are getting points. So Paul just wants to back up one of his players. Though, one would argue, when Achane comes back, what is Jeff Wilson Jr.'s role? What's that for? You know, what's Raheem Mostert's role? I mean, I know there's another guy in the mix. What the fuck is his name? There's another guy in the mix here. Can I see his name? Nah, whatever. Just know that there's another guy that also gets carries as well. Right now, it's a 3-player system. Who knows what's gonna happen when Achane comes back? And oh, by the way, Jeff Wilson still has a bye. The Dolphins still have a bye on week 10. So you look at the trade through Jay's lens, and the trade makes a whole lot of sense. Jay wins this trade by a mile, by 10 miles. He gets Zach Moss, who currently is the 4th ranked running back. Now we understand, most of this came because Jonathan Taylor was out. He was out. They had him on the PUP list. He has 589 yards and 5 touchdowns. Paul picked him up September 13th via waivers. What does this mean now? Because Jay can play both of these players at the same time. He can play both these running backs at the same time if he has like a bye. Does Indy did they have their bye yet? Indy has a bye week 11. He can play both of these players, and Jay can also hold on to Zach Moss. What if Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor, contractually, I don't know what the fuck's going on. What if Jonathan Taylor gets traded next season? Like, I know they paid him. Somebody else has to take that, take the weight of that budget. What happens if these players get shifted? They most likely will get shifted. I mean, you don't have a season like Zach Moss and just stay as a backup. That's not going to happen. And if we have 2 or 3 keepers, Jay can just stick with Zach Moss. Why did Paul make this trade? There's the Alfredian thing, and I don't want to look too much into it and say that it was an Alfredian thing, but I don't know the timing of this. Jay made his fireside videos, and I encourage those type of videos. I enjoyed it. He made those fireside videos, and then Paul said something to him, and then Jay said, "Yo, come through." Did anybody catch that? Did anybody catch that? And then 14 hours later, there was a trade. I don't know, man. I don't know. This was very, from Paul's perspective, I don't see why he made this trade. It would seem to me like Zach Moss goes up in value if he's the 4th ranked running back. So why trade him for a guy who just started playing this week? I mean, at the very least, it would have made more sense if Paul would have traded him for Brian Robinson. Maybe I think this should have been another player should have been added or something. Like Calvin Ridley, I think would have made more sense for Paul. I don't understand why Paul did this. Paul, I don't get it. Drop a voice note. Tell us why you did it. If you just straight up want to say you did it because it's your man, go ahead and say it, Paul. We didn't veto it. But again, I don't get it. So the week 9 games are as follows. Plathanos going up against the Toronto Bundy. This is a must-win game for me. Must-win game without a doubt. If I said Hensel's not going to make the playoffs, then I need to put Hensel's lights the fuck out. I need to put Hensel out. I need to take 2nd place in the division, and I got to get Hensel the fuck up out of here. And that's what I'm going to do this week. Hensel has Trevor Lawrence on a bye, which somebody's quarterback on a bye, you go, yay, yay, yay. I'm going to take advantage of you. But Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he kind of does what most quarterbacks in the player pool do. Hasn't scored over 20 points this season. 17, 8, 14. Just hasn't scored over 20 points. Gets a few touchdowns. He had one 300-yard performance. And Hensel, by the way, hasn't scored over 100 points yet this season. That went under my radar. Let's see. Hensel hasn't scored. Let's see. No, Hensel hasn't scored over... No. Hensel, of course, we faced each other week 1. Had it not been for Josh Allen's 3 interceptions, we wouldn't have been tied, but we tied 88-88. And what does he have? Najee Harris Thursday. I got to win this game. I just have to win this game. Yeah. Give it up, Hensel. Just give it up. You know, if I say Hensel isn't going to make the playoffs, then this has to be the beginning of that. Last week may have been the beginning, and I just have to keep it going. Hensel at the moment is projected to get 61 points. That's without a quarterback. So let's put a quarterback in there and say he's projected at, 74. So it's looking very positive for me. Next game here is the Floridian Crippler versus Highlander Trilogy. Ed claiming in the chat that Andy will get 2 straight losses. I don't know how that's going to happen if Ed starts Amiri DiMarchiato, whatever. It sounds like an Italian restaurant. Paul's coming in to correct. By the way, Paul, have you noticed, I don't know if you consume as much football content as I do, white people do not respect Devonta Smith's name at all. Has anybody noticed that? No show that I watch, fantasy show, the Red Zone guy, everybody calls him Devontae Smith. Everyone calls him Devontae Smith. Pay attention to it. They just don't give a fuck. They just call this motherfucker whatever the hell they want. And by the way, speaking of fantasy shows, that Matthew Berry show that I mentioned a few weeks back, you know what's really cringe about it? It's that song at the beginning, that intro, that dun, 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 dun. It sounds like something that would be playing in an Applebee's as you meet your hostess and she's walking you over to your table. And it's like, hi, my name's Paul. I'll be your server for tonight. Just listen to that intro music. It's horrid. It's just the worst fucking show. Matthew Berry, what the hell are you doing with your life? Anyway, right. So, what are his chances here? Let's see who we have. And look, and by the way, that's Sam Laporta as well. So not just your number one running back, but without Sam Laporta, Andy pretty much has everyone that he had last week. I don't know, Ed. Let's see if you can pull off another miracle, but I seriously doubt it. And who's going to be your quarterback? CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud, with all this, he's getting a lot of real world hype because he is playing well. But at a fantasy level, I still think you should just play Brock Purdy. And I hope that has some sort of influence over what you do, as it's been over a month. This guy, he hasn't gotten 20 points. It hasn't happened yet. This is the reason why your team is what it is, Ed, because you have a suspect running back situation. It's suspect. And at the quarterback position, it's even worse. At the quarterback position, it's comparable to Andy's running back situation. And, if you don't have a good and steady quarterback in this league, you're not very likely to win. So I think Andy's going to take that one as well. Big Papa Poop going up against Ricky O. The podcast once again faces one another. Who won that last game, guys? Who won that last one? Was it Orlando or was it Jasa? Let's see. So that last one was won by Jay, 76-66. See, Orlando's team just doesn't show up. Orlando's team sometimes they just go, nah, we're not gonna show up. Orlando's team is like the guy on Office Space. And Orlando, if you if you want to do one, go ahead and do that. Office Space when he's just like, nah, I'm just not gonna show up to work. You're gonna quit. You're gonna call them and give your 2 weeks notice. No, I'm just not gonna go. That's what Orlando's team does from time to time. Who knows who's going to win this one? Of course, there are some buys as well for Jay, as he has Amon St. Brown on a bye, and he also has Calvin Ridley on a bye. I'm sorry, the bye teams, I'm so all over the place because I'm sick. The bye teams are Denver, Detroit, San Francisco, and Jacksonville. Oh my God, San Francisco looks like poor widow Eric won't have his Christian McCaffrey. The next game here is Joelicus Maximus versus Pork Chop Express. Who knows what happens here? It'll either be a high-scoring game or a blowout. That's what I predict here. It's either going to be 100 and something to 100 and something, or it's going to be 100 and something to 50. That's what's going to happen. And the last game here is Ewok Rape going up against Jokes on You. Let's go, Pedro. Let's go, Pedro. I don't fear you at all, Pedro. You have no points. I don't know what's happening with your team, though. You know, Joe Burrow is doing his thing. But I need Eric to just stop. I just need his team to just stop. Just stop whatever they're doing. Put their pencils down. We've got a fire drill. Go outside. That's what I need. Okay? Andy, your 6-1-1 record doesn't quite depict how troubled your team is. You are a Tyreek Hill injury away from obscurity. If you don't have him, you're done. Can you lose your number one and still be successful? That's the question. Can you lose your number one and still be successful? I hope you'll find out. I hope you'll have to find an answer to that question. And Ed, we do not have a rivalry. You can change your name all you want. Last time I faced you, I raped you. I violated you. I stripped you of your humanity last time. And now, you change your name to try to do what exactly? Try to get my attention? Is that really what you want to do? You saw what happened last time. So, as always, may your quarterbacks get hurt before they leave the locker room. May your running backs pull their hamstrings, and may your wide receivers get arrested for marijuana possession. Andy, I own you, nigga. Go fuck yourselves.